Hello, new YouTube member. Guess what? You've just unlocked bonus content that no one else has seen before, and you get exclusive access to some neat features. To join the Experiencers Anonymous tier, you've unlocked loyalty badges which will appear next to your name when you join us live during any of our videos. The longer you stay with us, the cooler the badge will be. Also, you get to use these cool custom emojis that we made just for you. You also get to access our private Discord chat where we can communicate all the time privately. All you have to do is email us at admin@tessacan.org. Let us know you want in on the discussion and we will send you the link directly to Discord. This tier also unlocks early access to new videos, behind the scenes and blooper footage, as well as some exclusive videos made just for members. All that for $2.99 Canadian a month. If you join the unclassified tier for $4.99 Canadian, you would get everything I just said, plus extended footage of some of our featured videos, a discount to our merch store, and so much more. If you are a member of the unclassified tier, email us at admin@tessacan.org and let us know, and we will send you a discount code for the Paranormal Hangar. All proceeds go back into the mission and help us create educational content for you and the rest of the world. Thank you for being a part of that journey. There are lots of perks, so make sure you check that out. Also, you can use this tab to share and communicate with Tessa. That's it. Unless you have a better idea. If you do, email us at admin@tessacan.org if you have any requests for videos or bonus perks or anything at all. Really, you are in charge. Don't be afraid to reach out. Thanks for your support, and if you know anyone else who may benefit, please share our channel. The more people we have, the more we can help. And thanks for watching. Keep your eyes in the sky. Say it with me. Say it, Tim.
Eat the world.
Eat the world.
This is Lady Anne, owner of KPNL Radio and hostess of the Caravan Library of Lore, and I support Tessa. As an experiencer myself, I have filed my own reports with them, and the professionalism and heart they have shown my case goes above and beyond. If you have had an experience, I cannot recommend Tessa enough.
Hi, this is Ernie Hudson, Winston's Edmore from Ghostbusters. I want to let you know that Ryan Stacy, he's created the Experiencer Support Association, TESA. You can check them out at www.tesacan.org. Now, they investigate paranormal, UFO, and provide support to experiencers. But you can check them out at, like I said, www.tesacan.org and see for yourself if they're really Ghostbusters. I can tell you this, they are a non-profit organization. Good luck, have fun, and keep it blessed.
Good evening. You are listening to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat, a podcast by the Experiencer Support Association. Tessa is a UFO, paranormal, and paracryptid investigation association. We investigate everything belonging to the global phenomenon linked to highly strange and unexplained experiences. We also connect experiencers with other experiencers, creating a safe, positive environment to engage and discuss this phenomenon without judgment, criticism, or retribution. From the land of the white rolling sands, on the southeasterly tip of Georgian Bay, to all of you listening around the world, as we simulcast live on KPNL Radio, we salute you. you want to go back and listen to our previous episodes, go to youtube.com/The Experiencer Support Association. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button and ring that bell to be instantly notified when we are live, not only for these episodes, but every single element Tessa has to offer. On our website, tessacan.org, we have something for everyone. We have support for experiencers, data for independent researchers, and places to advertise for professional partners. Hello, everybody. Good evening. Today is Thursday, July 8th, 2021, and I, Ryan Stacy, am your host this evening. Remember to super chat, click the $ next to your name in the comment box if you want to donate or ask your questions live. Members, if you are members, ask your questions, and we'll get those in as soon as we can. If you're catching this on the replay, please consider becoming a member and unlock bonus content, including behind-the-scenes bloopers and extended footage on new project developments. We actually just released the first episode of What's This About, where I show my office, everything that's here behind me. So check that out. There is bonus footage for you members as well. So our guest tonight for Season 3, Episode number 22, is Mike Paterson. Mike Paterson has been involved in Sasquatch field research since 2008, with ongoing contact experiences since 2012. Through the first-hand experience, Mike's Sasquatch truth shatters our current paradigm through contact from ancient people, helping us see the infinite multiverse beyond our limited perception. Mike has learned that Sasquatch are interdimensional ancient human types. He has ongoing encounters that continue to show up in his life. He believes Sasquatch truth is mystery and magic that exposes an infinite world of understanding for those open-minded to experiencing truth and reality as it's meant to be. Hope for the human race. Mike, put on your tinfoil hat. How are you doing this evening? And hold on one second, buddy. Your mic's off. There we go. Hello.
Oh, hey, Ryan. Thanks. I'm happy to be here.
Right on. Right on. So, hello everybody in the chat. Good to see you. So, Mike, based off your bio right off the bat, you are an experiencer. So, let's just start from the beginning. Like, how did that start? When was the first one?
Well, they showed up in my life. I think it was around the age of 10, which was a traumatizing incident in my life that I described at the time as a bear. I'd been chased by a bear. That's what I told my family at the time. You know, just a little kid. We were up north in, where the hell was that again? Is a place called the Swiss Inn. I think the sign is still up there, but it's closed down long. It's right in the tip of my tongue where the place is. It might come to me. Anyways, my father had left me down the road to do some fishing, and there was a campground there, or some people that were camping. There was a river there. I remember I was fishing back then. It started getting dusk, so I started walking back towards the chalet we were staying at. My family was at for the weekend, and I saw something standing at the side of the road, and I just stopped dead in my tracks. And I remember it just turned and disappeared into the tree line. It's like a step, and it was gone. And I ran back to the campground, and I still remember, this is, I'm in my early 50s now. This is when I'm 10. I still remember this. There was the family sitting around the fire. I still remember the look on the man's face. Don't remember what he looks like. I just remember the look on his face. I was pale white. I couldn't even speak. I was finally able, after a bit of time, able to get out the words help. And he ended up giving me a ride back to the chalet, and I pointed out where I'd seen the bear. And when I walked in the place where my family was staying at, I was still pale white as a ghost. I was, it was a traumatizing moment in my life. So
what did the bear look like? Like,
well,
do you remember?
I don't remember that. Okay. I just remember it all, and I didn't remember, or basically I forgot about it until 2008. When I got involved in this subject and things started to happen, and then that all came flooding back to me, and I realized, hey, wait a sec, that wasn't a bear back then, that was Sasquatch. So I think there was something that happened prior to that, camping with my father while we were in a tent. I just have a vague memory of something poking the side of the tent early in the morning, but that's a lot more vague. So I believe they revealed their existence to me long ago, and then it was 2008 when it really started back up, and they came into my life in a big way, and it's just been absolutely incredible ever since, with hundreds and hundreds of ongoing encounter incidents that continue to show up in my life.
So nothing has happened? Like, you did not have a single experience in between the age of 10 to 2008? It was nothing after that? And then all of a sudden, all of this stuff?
Oh, I've had things happen throughout my life.
Okay.
Telepathic incidents and
a
little strange things along the way that happen. And I think to probably the majority of us who are open to it anyways, a lot of people would dismiss certain things and brush it off as whatever that may be. So let's talk about that. What happened? How old were you then? Is that the next memory? Is that the next thing that has happened, or after 10? Or no, I'm just saying, throughout life, there's little things that happen, dream incidents that are much more, or things like that, where things show up, and there's more to it than just a dream. And I've learned throughout my dealings with the Sasquatch stuff that I've been experiencing, they have that ability to make contact in the dream state. It's much more than a dream. It's very lucid. It's very real. It's palpable, and you tend to wake up instantly when it's over. And sometimes that can even involve physical contact, just to give it that more sense of realism.
Okay, interesting. So these dreams that you were having, though, that through this telepathic, were those Sasquatch that you were seeing in your dreams, or other entities, other beings, like we're talking paranormal, alien, ET, any of that stuff, or just strictly all this stuff happening with Sasquatch?
Since the Sasquatch thing started, there's been numerous incidents where I've met several of the family that I've been dealing with, Nefertiti's family, that have shown up that way. But there's been other things that have happened, in my life, but that's not something I'm really here to talk about. I'm here to talk about Sasquatch for the most part.
All right, well, let's talk about that then. What do you want us to know? So our audience would be very new to the Sasquatch interdimensional topic. We're going, so let's dive into that.
Okay. What any particular questions you have?
Well,
how it works, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. And I appreciate you've done this 100 times and a million times, if anything. And so this is a new audience too. So the best thing for us is just tell us an experience. Tell us the most convincing experience. So you mentioned in 2008 is when things just kind of spilled out. The floodgates were open. So what happened then? Let's start there.
Well, it was back in 2008 when this happened. Before that, I was spending a lot of my spare time in the woods with a photography equipment, just searching out wildlife. I love nature, love wildlife. So my time off, I'd be in the woods for the most part by myself. And and it was I think it was October 2008 when it all fired up. But before all that, I started getting into this subject. I'd had an epiphany while I was in the woods to start searching for Sasquatch, and at this point, from what I've experienced, I believe that it was a nudge from the Sasquatch themselves. They are a people. They're not animals, as so many people involved in the subject like to assume that they're an animal. No, they're not an animal. These are people. They have language, and they have abilities beyond our understanding. So it was back in 2008. I'd made a comment on some YouTube video, Sasquatch thing, and somebody ended up contacting me, asked me if I wanted to go to a location where there was previous activity. And I was all over it, said sure. So we're back and forth for a little bit. And I think it was about a month later, he contacts me again. He said, well, hey, you want to go? And I said, okay, let's go this Saturday, which was October 25th, 2008. So we ended up going into this location, which I was really skeptical about. I'm a skeptic first. I'm very logical, even though what I talk about is beyond comprehension for many folks. But this comes from experience, right? But as I mentioned, I'm a logical person. I got a head on my shoulders, and a good head on my shoulders. I like to think things out. So I ended up going to this location, which was north of Toronto, and it was about I met him up about it was about noon, and it was about 4:30 in the afternoon. He'd been showing me the ropes a bit and walking some trails, and it's about 4:30 in the afternoon. He picks up a fist-sized rock, walks up to a pine tree, and smacks it a few times. Drops the rock, and then almost instantly, I hear this. It was a very hollow, gorilla-type chest pounding, and it was a triple chest thump. That sounded like, and it was very odd sounding. I know I'm pretty good with my sounds in the woods, and this just stood right out as something odd. And right away, I just kind of put my arm up to hey, let's be quiet and listen for a sec. And within just a few seconds, this triple, very guttural sounding whoop came out of the forest, and it was so loud, it filled the forest. And I remember at that time thinking it sounded like it could speak English. Like, this crossed my mind even back then. And even without the visual, hearing this up close and personal, you understand exactly what it is right away. There's no doubt in your mind what it is. I knew it was a Sasquatch. And right then, my life changed. That was it. Just a defining moment, flipped my life upside down. I knew what it was, and we sat down the ground. I remember it was drizzly, it was overcast, and some lady had come walking around the trail, walking her dog, and she had this scowl look on her face. I'll never forget that. And we didn't say anything to her. She just, because she heard it. She was closer than we were, right? And then it was after that, but it's running through your mind 24/7 from when you wake up till you go to sleep. When something like that happens, it's just unbelievable. It overtakes your mind. And it really shows how conditioned we are to not accept this, that we're conditioned that this stuff doesn't exist. And when it comes into your life, even though you know what it is, for myself, I spent the next 2 weeks, roughly 2 weeks, in denial, even though I knew it was Sasquatch. But I still, I'm trying to decipher this and figure out what it is, and even though the whole time I'm knowing. So I spent the next 4 years frequenting that area. I went back the very next week by myself, and I actually ran into them again because I heard that exact same triple chest thump right beside me at one point. I had my camera, video camera, binoculars. I had all my gear with me, and I had a really interesting incident when that happened. Next thing I know, I'm halfway home, driving in my car, wondering, hey, wait a sec, I was just back there. What am I doing here? It showed me that's basically the first time I've had that happen. It's happened again after that in a different way, but they have an ability to, if they want to make you leave, they can make you leave without you even knowing what's going on. They have different ways of making that happen. But so after that, I spent the next 4 years frequenting this location and surrounding locations, and had numerous incidents throughout those 4 years, which at this point seems to me basically like it was training for something much bigger that was coming, that would land in my lap 4 years later, when I was told about a friend of mine now, who's now a friend. I didn't know him before this, and I was invited up to a cottage up in the Kawarthas, and to investigate for purported Sasquatch activity. I first went to their home and interviewed them, and got enough information to have the assumption that there was something definitely going on there. So the first 4 years were very interesting, with different experiences in different locations. Up the west side of Algonquin, had another location up there that was given to me by a hunter. Found a great camping spot up there just outside the park jurisdiction, and had some incidents happen there. Visits to camp and wood knocking and banging on vehicle, and there was a few things that happened up there as well. So there's been incidents and approaches happened throughout the years in different locations, and it's given me enough to understand what to look and listen for. So then it came to the point where, like I mentioned, I was invited up into the Kawarthas, and that's when things got real crazy.
So what happened in the Kawarthas?
Well, this is what's been going on for the past 8 years. I've been documenting a family of Sasquatch
this family moves as you move, or are they traveling? Is it the same family in different locations, or how? Because you mentioned up north at one point, you mentioned Toronto, then you mentioned Algonquin, now you're mentioning Kawartha Lakes. Those are different areas within Ontario. So
I think they're all different families.
Okay.
I can't say that 100%, but I'm quite sure. I'm pretty confident they're all different families. I have activity slowly building here at home too. There's been things happen here with vocalizations in the backyard. I've been, there's things that happen that I've learned to watch, listen for, as I mentioned, and the way they operate, how they interact with humans, their behavior is something that I've learned through using audio recordings, putting out my audio recorders. I've done that since basically day one, since I got involved in this. Well, not back in 2008 when I first went out, but pretty much shortly after that, I've been putting audio out every chance I get. Every time I go up to the Kawarthas, I've recorded every night there. When I've gone up Algonquin area, I got my audio recorder out. Whenever I'm in the woods and I'm camping, my audio recorders are out throughout the night. And it's something that has allowed me to learn how they interact, how they approach, their behavior with humans, and it's taught me a lot. It's been a fantastic tool for learning about their behavior.
Well, it's very good that you're recording evidence too, because then you can support the event as well when you're sharing your experiences with others. So when you play it back, I'm curious to know how you're able to identify that sound as being, as you say, a Sasquatch and not something else. Like, what is it? Can you describe how it sounds? Like, how do you know if you're not, or are you seeing it at the same time you're hearing it? Just kind of give me a visualization.
No, visuals are quite rare actually, and they've been rare for me throughout this. Although there's been physical contact many times. I've been, tapped on the shoulder, poked, or pat in the head, or even had I believe it's a hand cover my face while I was sitting in a chair, which tells me of their invisibility. There's been as much happen inside the cottage that I visit as outside, basically at this point, which shows me their and visits at home, indoors, which shows me their interdimensional aspect. There's been we've done a lot of, I guess, not experiments, just things that develop throughout the process, like written communication. We've developed that over the past 8 years. I'm at a point where when we go there, I got a chalkboard and a sketch pad. I'm asking questions and getting written responses in multiple languages. As far as the audio is concerned, what to listen for in that, when they vocalize, it's pretty easy to distinguish, and they tend to gravitate to my audio recorder. So they show me all the time that, hey, we know your audio recorder's here, and we know what it does. They know what all the equipment does. Cameras, video cameras. They know what everything does. A lot of people.
They're people, so they have a language, right? So are you able to understand what it is that they're saying? Like, have you learned their language? Do you know what the sounds mean?
No, there's a language barrier there. Although I've had the experience. I've had the experience where I have been shown something with words that were not verbally spoken. They were felt, but there's a clarity that comes with that, no doubt. So it kind of showed me that they may understand all language. As they've mentioned, I asked them, what language do your people speak? And they wrote all. I don't know if that's an individual thing or, throughout their people as throughout our people too, right? But that one incident gave me this indication that they go by feeling, energy, and it's very palpable and leaves no doubt. There's clarity that comes with it that it's absolutely incredible. So as far as language, like I have all kinds of audio where they're speaking in their language and they're also speaking in English.
Okay. What do they say in English then? Because you can understand that.
Yeah, the talking is it's not fluent. They're very, they're not speaking long sentences. They're very abrupt in all their actions. They have a tendency to love the element of surprise. So anytime they show up, 100% of the time, it's unexpected when they do whatever they do. So with Sasquatch, you could get something telepathic, and from my experience anyways, and from the experience of others I've dealt with, it tends to be very abrupt, very fleeting. It's when they show up, they'll do something and it's over, and they'll leave you hanging, and it's like, holy shit moment. But maybe they'll come back in another half hour. Maybe they've never left, or they might do something an hour later, 2 hours later, 3 hours later. They might do a half a dozen things in a night, 10 things in a night. You might get one thing. It all varies, depending, I guess, on the development of the relationship that you have with them. The stuff that I have going here at home right now is very minuscule in comparison to what I've been developing with the cottage owner up in the Kawarthas. That is at a level that is just absolutely incredible. When we get together, there's things going on there. It's basically another Skinwalker Ranch minus all the violent stuff, with the wildlife and that. It's minus other things too. There's not there hasn't been UFO showing up over the cottage, nothing like that. Although there's been a couple UFO incidents that I've experienced throughout this, which I guess I'll explain that at some point too. But
Yeah, whenever you're ready.
Yeah, this situation, it started off where I was putting up trail cams and banging on trees like most other Sasquatch researchers when they get involved in this subject. And I didn't, get into this to be a researcher. It's just, it's a very loose term I use for myself. I'm just, I'm searching for truth. I had an experience and it blew my mind, changed my life. I realized something, there is something out there, and likely a hell of a lot of other things that are unknown, that have been hidden from us, that are being suppressed from us as a human race, by who's ever's pulling the strings in the background. But there's things that I've experienced, like I said, this has changed my entire perspective on reality. I don't look at the world like most people do. Very detached from this this system that we're all subject to. I see right through so much manipulation and lies, and government is just completely corrupt. And it's when you have all these experiences, it makes it very difficult to keep going through the motions of being part of this reality, and feeding the system with some bullshit 40-hour work week, and just feeding into it, right? I'm pretty fed up with it at this point, because of my experiences and the transparency of everything that I can see through all the manipulation and lies going on around us, and the use of mainstream media, being utilized to push a narrative, and so much lies and manipulation, and this is part of the experience, that it really exposes that and changes one perception of what's really going on in this world.
Mm-hmm. No, I can appreciate that. Like, especially the guy myself, I'm an experiencer too. So like, and of course, like this podcast is investigative style, and more so for not just for the audience, but for me too, to understand. I'm looking for things that resonate with my experiences as well too. That's why we do this, because we want answers. Something happened. It could be a bunch of things, but we're all smart and educated in many ways to know that it's not normal. So, and then the more you look into it, you start to unravel more things that aren't normal, and then we turn to the government, who we think will provide these explanations, and then like recently on UFOs, they don't know anything. So like, we're kind of we're the experts, the experiencers, because we know what we saw, we know what we felt, but we're trying to interpret what it may be. And you're pretty confident that it's a Sasquatch. Now I'm a little confused, because from my understanding, a Sasquatch specifically refers to like an ape-like animal type creature. But you said that they're people. So when you say that they're people, are they hairy people that look like, and we're just confusing them as animals, or are they not hairy at all? Like how does that define people when you say that they're not people, well, and yet you're a Sasquatch?
Yeah, they are a hairy people. If you go through encounters that people have had, for the most part, people are going to say that the face, it looked human. There's hunters that have stared at them through their scopes and could never pull the trigger because of how human looking they are.
Yeah.
It's they're different. They're just different than us, right? They're not Homo sapien, but they are part human. I've asked them this through the development of the written communication that's gone on. I said, "Are you human?" And they wrote. They put a Y/N, yes and no. They used to write yes for a lot of their responses, and for the most part now it's a why, because they're very efficient, right? So they say as little as they need to get a point across. But as far as being human, I think these guys are the missing link to our evolution, where there's holes throughout that. It's just one big hole in the evolution of humans, and science doesn't know the answers to our past. They can only speculate, and then this subject is very taboo. Any scientist that gets involved, basically, it's a career killer. Except Jeff Meldrum, who sits on a fence, and even though he knows the feet look as damn human as it gets, he doesn't go there. He plays his paycheck card, where, hey, if I just keep doing this and hold the line here with this ape theory, I'm going to keep getting paid, and we're not going to take this into the realm of where it should go, and that's truth. Science knows that Sasquatch are not only real. So we're so far past this "do they exist" part, where this crap comes up in the mainstream media sometimes. Do Bigfoot really exist? It's ridiculous when I hear that. And I've dealt with John Bindernagel and Dmitry Bayanov, both have passed, sadly, because they were pioneers in this field. John was involved. He's a wildlife biologist. He was involved for over 4 decades in this subject. And he supported me. He did use my name at first, and then he stopped using it in his presentations, although he would use some of my supporting evidence. Because he gets too much flack from people squawking in his ear, because I talk the interdimensional stuff, the real stuff that so many are in denial about. And this is the problem with this subject. It's very divided. So many against. There's people that will spend literally decades involved in this subject and just completely deny that there is more to it than some Gigantopithecus offshoot crap that they've tried to push for forever. And you get these shows like Finding Bigfoot, where they're just acting like a bunch of whatever, banging on trees and doing all this crazy, stupid stuff out in the woods, searching for an ape that can hide real well, when they full on know that there is more to it, that there is a paranormal aspect to this subject.
See, what's interesting about this for me too is, like, as I mentioned before the show, we do have a resident cryptozoologist who is studying anthropology on the Tessa team, and I bet you if he's listening to this right now, he's probably pulling his hair out, because he is on the science-based side, and as the investigator, everybody knows I'm neutral, but like I've gotten it into him intellectually a few times. We're still on the team together, things like that. And I understand where the science, there's a lot of science that can prove or heavily suggest the likelihood of it being apes. But and then in this community, if we accept UFOs, psychic ability, paranormal ghosts, all that under the ultra spectrum, we have to accept the interdimensional possibility. And the reason for that is because neither the academics or us have captured one for study. So until one is actually captured and be analyzed, it has to be both. And what I like about what you said is that mentioning that they're hairy people. So it may not, that may be that middle ground where the Bigfoot that is an animal and that's something else, and then what you're seeing is some sort of a humanoid, possibly descent. So they're two things that are kind of existing in the same space and time. You're having what sounds like a telepathic experience, so they're communicating through the mind as well, and those aren't characteristics of apes. So, and if you say that they're humans, what we understand with consciousness, it makes sense that they are humans, because we can, as humans, have psychic abilities. So what I'm trying to get around here is, as neutral as I am, with this weird stuff that's happening, there's more evidence to suggest that theory than the fact that we evolved from apes, because there's so many other things that are different about us than apes.
Yeah, we basically just suddenly showed up, didn't we?
There's so many things, not just the telepathic thing. So again, sorry, Alex, not sorry, but I'm on this side of the fence.
Yeah,
okay.
And when you get the people like that pulling their hair out when we're talking about the interdimensional stuff, they don't have any experience, and they've never had the experience of it, and that's why they're doing that and acting that.
He still has done research, and he still has evidence that suggests that side of things. So that's the thing. What I'm trying to establish here is that not one side has enough evidence to know. It's still an unknown, and we still have to work together. There shouldn't be, like you said, like that guy stopped saying your name because he was getting flack. There shouldn't be flack. It's an alternative theory. It's an alternative idea, and there's certain parts of your experience that could be accepted in the academic community under proper conditions.
I don't look at it as an alternative theory. I look at it as a denial by science to accept what truly is. There is more to this world than this, what we can touch, see, hear, feel, taste. Consciousness, they're realizing consciousness is all connected. Everything is connected. It's not an alternative theory. It's a denial by science to even open the door to questioning and being more accepting. And it's just, they basically shut the door on anybody that speaks of the paranormal. And that is not science. That's pseudoscience. That's crap. It's not science. And this is what's been the problem in this subject, because there are so many witnesses seeing the paranormal aspect. And since I've been involved in this subject, I have watched this Bigfoot community do a 180 with growing numbers that are bearing witness to these paranormal aspects of their existence. And there has been visuals. So there are visuals. So, we do know they're Sasquatch. They're the evidence that I've witnessed myself. It's a mountain of evidence, and I presented a mountain of evidence. And like I said, I've had the support of both John Bindernagel. Dmitry Bayanov was the director of science for Darwin State Museum in Moscow, involved in this subject since '64. He sadly passed a heart failure. It was a couple of years back now. And he contacted me because I spoke of the paranormal aspect, because he knew. He knew that I was speaking the truth as soon as I started talking about that. And so science does know this. I was asked to, basically keep my mouth shut and not talk about that, keep a lid on it. And I refused. I said, no. My thought was too little too late. If we're going to sit here and wait for science to play, I'm dead and gone, long gone. So my thought was give it all to them and let them sort it out after the fact.
Well,
so
you're an experiencer. You're an experiencer. You've seen it, you've had it, you felt it. So there is no need for you to explain it. So why bother pursue in that academic part of it? Why push when you know there's challenges? If you know.
You know why I do this? I do this because I hate the way the world is. I can't stand the status quo. I see the lies, the manipulation, all the bullshit, the politics. It's just human ego crap. The world is going in the wrong direction. We're poisoning everything. And this truth shatters the status quo, and it breaks the system, and it starts to make change. And that's why I do this, because I'm for the earth. As far as the human race at this point, what I see out there, I couldn't give a rat's ass if they kill themselves off or not, but I care about the earth and all the life on it, or the nature and the wildlife. That's why I do this, for the health and well-being of the earth and its inhabitants.
Well, thank you for your service, because we need people like that. So it's good. Thank you. We got some comments here. Hairless Primate from the UK says, humans are still animals, taxonomic group primates. We're part of the great ape grouping. My field is evolutionary biology. Sasquatch can fit into that bracket easily alongside us. So how do you feel about that?
Dmitry Bainov it was his goal to, what's the guy's name? He was a student of another Russian scientist whose goal it was to have hominology recognized as a new discipline of anthropology, which would recognize the Sasquatch as the people they are. So, yes, we're all apes.
Okay, cool. This comment here from Priscilla said, I would love to hear more about some of your Kawartha Lake experiences. Are you able to elaborate more? Do you have more that you can share from that?
Oh, I got endless stories. Actually, I also have a channel, Sasquatch Ontario.
Okay.
There's, I think, 11 videos that are still public up there. There's one called Habituation Denied and Confirmed. If anybody wants to go on and listen to that, there's about a half an hour of back-to-back audio clips, Sasquatch audio clips. They're all from the same family, and it's pretty incredible stuff. I have a very substantial library of recordings, but as far as incidents that have gone on there, yeah, it's just it's unbelievable how much has happened. We've had from September 2012, when I started visiting there, to March 5th or March 20th, 2015, we had 80 visits in that period. I haven't counted how many since. There was a bit of a fallout between the property owner and myself for a time period of I'm not sure, might have been a couple years, somewhere in that range, because of all the harassment. He didn't understand at the time that I wasn't involved. He wasn't sure what was going on, because this has been predominant, with or just littered with trespassing, harassment, stalking, really a lot of it going on, and we found out there's a certain organization involved in this subject who like to kind of deem themselves at the top, who I've learned basically scrub reports of any paranormal activity. But in those 80 visits, we've had activity on 100% of the visits, and ever since. So in 8 years that I've gone there, we've had activity show up on every visit. And the way the Sasquatch work, it's like a baby step process. They're always giving something new. That was our motto, always something new. And even though a lot of the stuff is very similar and it seems the same footprints, vocalizations, and much more, there's always little nuances that happen. Like, there's been so many, they tend to make matter appear from thin air. So marbles have been a big part of this, and we have a collection of hundreds and hundreds of marbles. I've had them dropped right into my hand out of thin air. I've had a glass in my hand. I'm sitting there with a glass, and all of a sudden I hear tink. I look, oh yeah, I got another one. Marble out of thin air while I'm standing in a room talking. The vocalizations have developed to the point where the last couple visits in the winter, Nefatia is his name. He's the main character who's given the most vocalizations, although we've documented vocals from multiple family members. The vocals have started happening inside the cottage, and the first time I missed it because I'm not normally recording indoors. But after that happened, I started putting my audio recorder out, inside there, and I think I captured 4 times the first night. After he vocalized once, we're sitting at the table having a discussion when we hear a Sasquatch vocal come from the room beside us. This comes out of thin air. So there's been physical contact many times. That's happened both indoors and out. They love to mess with us. So there's they're jokesters, tricksters. There's always this sort of thing going on. I'll go in there. I'll go into my bag sometimes. There's a pile of leaves and sticks, or in the winter, there was one visit this past winter where I opened my bag and my clothes are all wet. I'm like, what the hell, man? I realized, they'd obviously thrown a bunch of snow in my bag and soaked my clothes. There was one incident after the winter, the snow had melted and there's a single lane gravel road out front of the cottage there. So we're looking for marbles that might have been missed throughout the winter. And I remember there was this stone, it was about yay big, and it had this red mark on it. And I don't know, maybe it was jasper or something. I don't know what it was, but it was in a piece of granite and it was pressed into the road. So I pulled it out of the divot in the road and I looked at it. Dwayne, the cottage owner, he's up the road looking for marbles. There's nobody else in the cottage. It was just us there. He didn't know what I was doing. I looked at this stone and I put it back in the divot, put it back into the road. And then I walked from there into the cottage and I go into my camera bag, and there sitting on top of my camera is that same rock that I just pulled from the road. So little things like this happen all the time. It's just it's constant, right?
It's very interesting. See, like I am investigating all phenomenons because I'm trying to understand why people are connecting to any phenomenon. And even though you're talking about a being that science tries to explain as an animal, the characteristics that go with its character, its nature, are paranormal, are ufological, are like all those things in that spectrum. So either what about the ET connection? Is it possible that it's not interdimensional, that it may be extraterrestrial, or both? Like, where are we with that?
I think it's both. Like, I already know they're interdimensional. Are all of their that don't know? Can all of your people go invisible? And they responded yes. You go back to the Paterson Gimlin footage from '67. Well, why didn't she do that then? I don't know. Maybe she didn't want to see anybody do that. Maybe there's other reasons. Maybe there were children in the picture. I don't know. I can't answer that question, but I can give a answer to what I was told by them in writing. Whether they're telling me the truth, I don't know that either, right? I believe they are because of my experiences and how I see them as I trust them more than humans at this point. So as far as the interdimensional aspect, because of visits that have happened at home, vocalizations. I had a friend of mine I lived with in Brampton, Ontario for a couple of years throughout this, really good buddy of mine. And I was there for a couple of years, and when his name's Kyle. When I moved in there, I said, "Hey, Kyle, some crazy shit might, good chance is going to start happening here." He's very happy guy, we're always laughing, always have a good laugh together. He just chuckled. He was very skeptical. By the time I left, they'd given him physical contact. They'd given him mind speak telepathy. They'd given him footprints in the snow and his grass, shaking the tree in his yard, flipped all his cigarettes upside down in his pack, and even walked across the room in a semi-transparent form through the brick wall, across the room in front of him, and out through the closed door while he was sitting there watching, I think it was a hockey game one night across the room. And he waited a half an hour before he came upstairs and told me. I was like, I haven't even experienced that. So the whole interdimensional aspect, I already know they are. It's just a matter of science catching up as far as I'm concerned. There's cases where they've been seen coming and going from UFOs. There's a Skinwalker Ranch in Utah where there's all kinds of crazy stuff, which includes Sasquatch activity, UFO, ET stuff. It's all there, right? It's all connected. It's all interconnected, and we're all part of that too. This is being exposed to us from what what they've shown me in an experience. We are in the midst of Sasquatch people exposing their existence to the human race as they choose. This is not a discovery by science, because science is, like I said, pseudo. They're just, twiddling their thumbs while thousands and thousands of people are having encounters and witnessing this, and science is just sitting on its ass. Mainstream science. There are scientists obviously that are involved in this stuff that are serious, and they know that they exist, and there's much more going on here. But I think they're a lot more very reserved about it, and I've had a couple contact me throughout the years, and they're not out there telling the world like I am. I guess it's, like I said, it's a career killer. So as far as the interdimensional terrestrial, I asked them, where do your people come from? I was told, home here always. So I believe, and I asked them, are your people the first people on Earth? And they said yes. So from what I'm being told, Sasquatch are the Earth's first people. They're still here. They're still alive. I believe their numbers are thriving because of the amount of children, the evidence, supporting evidence I see of children all over, throughout many cases that I speak to people all the time dealing with this. So it's easier for me to go find Sasquatch activity than it is to find a bear, basically, at this point. It's just a matter of understanding what you're looking for and listening for. And as I was mentioning before with the audio, there's certain indications they give. Like they'll go right up to I have my recorder wrapped around a tree in the backyard, 5-6 feet off the ground. They and back in the Kawarthas, a lot of the time they would tap my microphone. They might do a double tap or something like that to it's like, hey, that's physical contact, and that's not natural. That's not a stick dropping from the tree bouncing off the recorder. Oh, and it happened again and again and again. Or there's another spot I go to, I'll put a recorder beside my tent, and then I'll put one in the woods where I have this place where I'll leave gifts in that. And I don't know they're there much of the time until I get home, play the audio back, and I hear crack, snap, rocks clacking, all right at the recorder, just blatantly saying, hey, we're here, no vocals, not giving their voice, but they're, this is something that they do. This is part of their behavior. They're very, very reserved and very subtle for much of their activity, or they can be completely blatantly open about it.
So considering how much of a magnet you are to this, and how close you are to me, like very close without mentioning, I feel like we're gonna have to create an event where I can be shown all these things, because this is fascinating. I would love to see this firsthand. I would love to study it from my perspective. So before we go to commercial break, Michael, Corey Hall has asked a question. What is your opinion on Dr. Matthew Johnson? I don't know who that is. So if you know who that is, if you could provide.
Oh, I know Johnson. Oh, yeah. He has been very nasty towards me, accusing me of hoaxing, and has even created web pages against me. I caught him lying. He was banging on trees when I was making the interdimensional claim, and then he flipped the switch there, apologized to a bunch of other people, but not me. So he's been very, I don't like him. I'll put it that way. I don't like to speak negative about others involved in this subject, but he's one who's been a real a-hole to me. So yeah.
Hey, people don't like me either. You either love me or hate me, right? So any press is good press, though. At least he's mentioning your name.
No, I don't care about that. I don't care about the press or whatever. This is just the truth that I'm trying to express. It's not like I want to be on television. I can't stand the television shows on the subject. I think they're all, again, they're behind.
I used to like them too, and then I just watched the Stephen Greer documentary before we came up here as well, which we talked about before. So let's and Angela
That
says
was good.
What's good, and we should talk about that when we come back. So before, let me just say my little thing here. So we will pause right here. But we will continue after a message from our professional partners. Also, if you're listening to this live on KPNL Radio or a future podcast, head over to youtube.com/The Experiencer Support Association to see the video that goes with this audio. Remember, you are listening to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat, a podcast by the Experiencer Support Association. And we will be right back.
Ryan is one of Canada's leading new UFO investigators. He conducts and oversees UFO investigations on a constant basis and was really taken by his research. He's compiled a tremendous amount of data regarding UFOs in Canada. And just as interesting, he really goes over how UFO investigations are done and what are some of the mistakes that people make when they submit evidence. Note for starters, don't edit your videos or photos before you send them. If you want to hear more follow-up conversation between Ryan and myself, you can go to richardolanmembers.com, where we have a candid conversation on ufology, the paranormal, and more. And remember, while we learn and grow and search for the truth, let's be good to each other.
The same thing that draws aliens to our planet is the same thing that draws us to others. Exploration, curiosity, sustainability of life. That's why we go. It would make sense as to why they're visiting here.
Travis! Quit playing around, man. Get back here. Travis!
The last thing I remember was this numbing shock. Stunning sort of a feeling. Very powerful.
Get away from me!
I was just out of my mind with fear, just screaming the whole time.
It's been theorized that aliens prefer remote areas because they don't want to attract attention. Whatever it is that they're doing, they would want to do that in a less populated area. There are multiple accounts of the same thing from people from all over the world. People that do not know each other, do not live in the same cultures, and they're all looking up, they're all seeing things in the sky. So it would be naive of us to think that we're alone in the universe.
My mission is to assist and help those experiencing this phenomenon in such a way that they're able to continue and live with it, and also in a way that it can be measured, quantified, and reinforced within today's society, so that way it can be accepted and no longer viewed in a negative way. One thing that I do value in people is the ability to sense and feel when something is right and when something is wrong. That is a natural ability that we all share. Now, when we combine that with the paranormal and ufological abductions or visits, I have this sensation that these abilities are connected. Not everyone can sense, not everyone can feel. However, those who can are typically connected with something that we cannot explain. And part of the research is not just to investigate the experience, but it's also to understand and study the experiencer to find out what they have in common with other experiencers, to try to figure out what the actual makeup is in order to be on that spectrum. There's a lot of it happening all over the world, and I do not know of any other study that is focusing on the individuals as people, only the phenomenon.
Welcome back. You are listening to Beyond the Tinfoil Hats. If you're enjoying this episode so far, please consider becoming a member of our YouTube channel or send us a super chat. Your membership will get you bonus content like exclusive videos, and it will help us reach our goal of launching our training center, which is the Interstellar, the Academy of Ufology and Paranormal Studies. Also, if you have ever experienced an unexplained event involving the paranormal, UFOs, extraterrestrials, dogmen, or any other paracryptid, head over to tessacan.org/reporting system. The more reports we get, the more we will understand the phenomenon and how it affects our people. Let the others who have already reported be that example that proves we are making a difference. If it wasn't for these reports, we would not be able to do what we do, and for that, we thank you. So, still here with Mike. How you doing? How you doing, buddy?
Good. I just wanted to show you something here.
Sure.
This is that's from April 2013, and this is the same individual. Is now 4 inches bigger, that footprint. These are both cast in snow.
Sorry. I just made the screen bigger so that way everybody could see that. That's interesting.
What happens there was, like, these footprints, they show up. I've documented literally hundreds of prints with the property owner throughout the past 8 years from multiple family members, and they show up as single prints. These are all, in snow. We like to go in the winter time because the humans can't hide their prints, but the Sasquatch can, and sometimes they'll show 4 family members all leave one single print, or a trackway which just starts and stops, and all the prints go nowhere. Every one of them, 100% of the prints have gone, just suddenly show up, and some of them have shown up as we're standing there. We haven't witnessed them show up, but they basically happen as your back's turned. Within a few seconds, you turn around and it's like, wow, there's another print there. There's one thing, I know at the last hour there, I have my moments where I feel a bit disgruntled because of certain people involved or this and that. But, I do want to get the point across that the Sasquatch, they are very, very loving, compassionate people. They have an understanding of energy. And I've had an experience where Neff one time was very adamant about the word love, and it just came out of thin air, and he basically yelled this in my face pretty much, and it blew my mind. I didn't capture that on audio. It happened inside, but it was something that was. It's something that they're more evolved than we are in their consciousness. They have a greater understanding of vibration, of energy. I think they have an inherent ability to manipulate that, to change their vibration, bring it down to a physical sense where they can materialize, because they can materialize and disappear at will. I know this for a fact. And then there's the aspect where they can speak in your mind or come into your home, and it doesn't matter where you are. It seems I've had activity happen in my car numerous times, and my girlfriend has too, and she's watching this. There's been a few incidents where they've, is that them doing that in her car? Well, they've done similar things in my vehicle, so. I have this thing wrapped around my mirror, or hanging from my rear view mirror. This piece on a rope. I have a couple things there. I had an incident where I'd driven around the corner and gone into the woods. I was by myself, and got out of my car, locked my car, start walking the trails. This was around the beginning when all this pandemic stuff started going on. Did I say that right? Sorry.
Yeah, I think so. I think close.
And when I come out of my car, or when I come out of the woods and I got back into my car, I noticed right away the piece hanging from my mirror was wrapped around. And I've had it happen before, and I've had it happen since. And I've tried to, I've jumped on my brakes, I've hit it with my arm, trying to make it wrap around the mirror, and it's never happened. I can't do it right. It's happened while I'm in the car even. And then this has happened also to my girlfriend Jen, this thing being wrapped around her car mirror. And we actually both had an incident together here behind my house, or behind where I live here. And we were standing out there. My landlord had, he texted me one night, or one afternoon. No, it happened about 7 o'clock at night. And he told me he heard two, obvious wood knocks, a couple of obvious wood knocks in the back. So I thanked him, and I told Jen, I said, I got to go back there at some point tonight, just, out of respect, because I believe there was a reason for those wood knocks. And we went back there I think it was about 1 o'clock in the morning. It was a really dark night too, and there was a lot of wind. I was mostly up in the tops of the trees, and it's funny because when this incident happened, it was like everything had just calmed down just for a brief moment. And it was about, we walked back there without flashlights, let our eyes adjust, which we tend to do a lot, try to use flashlights as little as possible. Not for the sake of the Sasquatch or anything, just for the sake of our own selves, to allow our eyes to adjust and see better in the dark. And so we walked back there, and we're standing back there in the woods, and suddenly I hear this, it's like a knock, knock, knock. And what was funny is it's something I used to do in another location a dozen years ago. This sequence of knocks, not around here either. It was so I heard this. It was clearly in my ear, and at this point now I wonder if it was physically in the woods happening, or if it was a telepathic thing. I don't know. She didn't hear it, but like I said, there was wind happening in that, and the leaves were dry, so any movement with your foot would dampen any sounds, could make it difficult to hear certain things. But I heard these wood knocks clearly, and I mentioned it to her. I said, I just heard wood knocks, and so we stopped, and we were standing there, so we just stopped, and we're listening. I think it was about a minute later, about, I don't know, maybe 6 feet in front of us, roughly. Believe we both think it was a young male, went walking right in front of us, and we first heard the footsteps come in. It was 3 steps, a very brief pause, then 2 more footsteps, and we clearly could hear the footsteps right in front of us, and we both were witness to the leaves kicking up from the ground as he walked. And then she was given a visual, which she saw through a shimmering, his form, which, like I mentioned, we both believe it was a younger male. And I think that was for her to give her that experience, which I was thrilled about, because up till then it's a lot of stories, right? Until you witness this firsthand, it's very hard to comprehend, very hard to digest, without many people just thinking you're batshit crazy. I get called that all the time, but at this point I see it as a compliment. It's always nice when somebody else, especially somebody you're with, and when it happens, when you're together, it's a vindication of what you've been saying all along. So
multiple. Yeah, that's the thing, right? Like that's why I asked you earlier, why pursue it any further if you already have contact, you already believe, but you want others, you believe it must be happening to other people too. So why do you think they're communicating with you? Like, have you ever been out there with any individuals and not made contact? Or does it always happen when you're there?
Well, as far as the cottage goes, there's only ever been one other person that has. Well, there's been other invites, but it's not happened. There was one other person, Chris Munch. He's a filmmaker. He actually made the film Letters from the Big Man, which is why he got the invite out there, because it's a film depicting the Sasquatch as close to the truth as what they truly are. So if anybody wants to watch that, Letters from the Big Man, it's a great film. And Chris was invited out. He lives in Hollywood, and he came down, spent 3 nights on location, and he got to witness, he didn't hear vocals, but he got to witness some pretty crazy stuff, marbles out of thin air, and manipulation of his camera. That's another thing I haven't mentioned with images being imposed onto the devices. But as far as people being invited, Dwayne is very private, as I can't blame him. He's very protective over this, as am I. I have another spot that I go to and pitch my tent, and I've only ever taken a few people in there that I trust, or that I thought I trusted. So I'm very protective as well about who I take to certain areas. I have other areas that there's been activity, and I have no problem, going there with whoever. It doesn't matter. Will anything happen? Who knows? I never have any say or jurisdiction over that. It's always up to the Sasquatch.
You mentioned it was like you and one other person, or it's like small crowds. Do you think, like, if it, with your research, your understanding of how they are, would allow a larger crowd, scare them off? Like, is intimate like the ideal? Like, people having with large crowds, like human beings do. So.
Yeah, I'm not into crowds. I really, no, I don't like crowds. When I'm in the woods, I like to listen. Your ears are, one of the best tools that you have to work with, even before your eyes. What I hear is very important to my research, what I'm listening for, because they have an ability to move completely silent. They could be standing right beside you, and you wouldn't know it unless they allowed you to know. And this has been shown to me time and time again. As Dwayne and I are standing outside, and suddenly, I get poked in the arm and say, "Oh, Neff's here." And there's always the one incident that I always chuckle about, because we were out there one night and he's questioning me. "Are you sure?" I said, "Yeah, man. He just touched me. I know. He's here, man. He's here with us. You sure?" And then he was wearing a baseball cap, and suddenly it just went flying in the air off his head. So, "You believe me now?" Right? So that was kind of funny, but
So how do you know that's not poltergeist? How do you know that's not paranormal activity? How are you so certain that was him or it? What is it? What sex is that? Is it a male?
Yeah, and he is now 25 years old in human years. Another thing, I asked them about their age. I said, "How long do your people live in human years?" I got no response. And I don't always get a response when I ask a question. And sometimes it's maybe in just the way I ask it. I change my questioning and I ask, "Do your people live longer than 200 human years?" And they responded yes.
That could be the language barrier. Maybe they can only answer, they've learned the basics, yes and no, right?
Well, what was interesting? Oh no, their intelligence is highly underestimated. What was interesting though, when they wrote the age of 25 for Neff, they first wrote 48 and rubbed it out. So that was interesting. Basically, time as we see it, it doesn't exist that way with them.
Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned, okay, so walk me through so I can understand this communication process. So you have a chalkboard, you're writing the question down, you're setting this chalkboard down somewhere. Are you watching like the letter, like the chalkboard, like right in real time? Like how does this go down?
It started with a little notepad and a crayon left outside the front door on the railing.
Okay.
We'd write something or put a mark, and we'd get a mark beside it, and that was pretty mind-blowing in itself. And over years, that led to a little chalkboard I have and a sketch pad, dollar store sketch pad, Sharpie and a piece of chalk left on the kitchen table. And we sit at that table often, and there's a camera also left, about a point and shoot digital camera. So there's I'll ask a question out loud and I'll write it down. Sometimes I'll draw a line midway down the chalkboard and ask another question. So I got 2 questions there. Sometimes they'll respond on the other side, or sometimes they'll respond on the, I might ask something on the chalkboard and I'll get a response in the sketch pad. They've given several dozen drawings. So what's happened? These happen while we'll step outside the cottage, come back in, and there's an answer written. There's nobody else in there. But there's also been a few instances where we hear the chalk or we hear the paper shuffle from the sketch pad, and then I check right away, and sure enough, there's a new drawing because we know what's in there, right? But there's also been incidents where this camera is left on the table. We've been given dozens of images that mysteriously appear out of thin air. And there's been instances where I'm sitting at the table, I'm checking the camera every few minutes or whatever, and suddenly there's a new picture on it, and it has not left my sight the entire time.
Is it in sight of the notepad?
Yeah, I leave them all together. Yeah.
Huh. So you have markings that are added to the notepad, but the camera's filming it the entire time.
No, I don't run a camera on that.
Why not?
I'm not in this to try and capture them on film. You're not going to.
Mm-hmm.
It's.
You're developing a relationship. You're bonding with them. I understand that. You're not studying them. You're having a relationship with them. You're working with them, right?
There's trust involved here, right?
Yeah.
I'm not putting up.
I don't know what happened there. You might have paused. I think you froze there. I don't know if you can hear me. Just to provide context, what I was kind of speaking to was that's where the academic community.
Sorry to interrupt there, Ryan. I lost you for about, I don't know, maybe not quite a minute, but close to it.
Yeah, it's okay. I lost you too. I was just filling space. So the reason why I was saying that is to bring out a point that, like, me as an investigator, that's kind of on the academic side of things. That's why I'm thinking that way, because I like the evidence helps us support other experiencers that may be experiencing the same thing as you. But it makes a good point that the academics who do all those science things have to be intrusive in studying and get really right into that. And if you're looking at them as people, as species, as biological entities with feelings and emotions, no wonder they're giving you all the attention, because you're not bugging them, right? And then that's where it becomes difficult in the science community, because it's hard to just believe that without the evidence, and then that becomes this huge social thing. Where's the middle ground? Where someone could get evidence without being pushy or without making them uncomfortable.
Well, it does happen. There's something about cameras. You're not going to get an image if you're trying to film them. They don't appreciate that, from my understanding. Audio doesn't seem to be a problem because there's no visual there. Like I said before, I used to put up trail cams at the beginning of this. I stopped doing that shortly into the situation that I've been involved with for the past 8 years. Once I started seeing the intelligence I was dealing with, science, it basically comes down to personal experience, getting out in the field, not sitting in front of a computer going through countless reports or whatever. It comes down to getting in the field, persisting with the right approach, and having firsthand experience on multiple occasions, and starting to see, and starting to develop and see what I'm speaking about. Their paranormal abilities, their minds speak, their ability to physically have contact with us, physical contact without visual, their ability to give activity indoors. This just it comes down to it's time consuming. It takes a long time. This isn't something that happens overnight. I've watched this unfold, and I see their behavior, and they don't rush things. They have the patience of a rock, these people. And
so our YouTube member Angela had validated that too, saying that she sees more in the sky when it's just her. No phone, no cam, just me. So there's that. There's that, and that's good. That's good. Just tough for me because I'm like, I want the data. It's really hard, but that's good. Let's talk history. What do you know about ancient Sumerian mythology? Do you know anything about that?
I haven't really delved much into that, as far as Sumerians. I know it's basically the oldest language. It's not something they really teach in school. They avoid a lot, when it comes to school. They don't teach about Tesla or that sort of thing. They tend to avoid all the stuff that gets us close to the truth.
Mm-hmm. So you wouldn't know what Enkidu is. Does that name sound familiar to you?
No.
I'm going to show you a picture. This is why I was asking too. And it might be good for some research after the fact, because Enkidu here. This is an ancient sculpture from back in the day. But essentially, what Enkidu was the companion of a king called Gilgamesh, and this individual was described as a hairy man that possessed the ability to be telepathic, to do all these characteristics, everything that you mentioned tonight. There is an epic, it's called Epic of Gilgamesh, where Enkidu was his companion. And they fought side by side, and it's a really beautiful poem, epic, or whatever you call it. I would look into that if you're not familiar with that. But that to me, Enkidu is the link, for me, anyways, that could validate the possibility that this has started from the beginning. Because remember how they had told you that they've been around forever. They've been around since the beginning. And if Sumerian mythology, if the Sumerians are the first people, and there's written scripture around walking with a Bigfoot, Sasquatch type being that is telepathic, then there's that link to you now. So it's in the history.
Yeah, I understand. Hairy wild men, basically, they are written throughout antiquity. It dates back thousands of years, and this has come up again and again throughout our history. And from my understanding, like I said, we are in the midst of an exposure of their people to the human race. I think it's going to happen in my lifetime. I think that we're going to see some big things come down the pipe as far as both UFO, ET, and Sasquatch are concerned. It's all connected. So,
and if they reveal one, they got to reveal it all. So,
yeah. There was one time that Dimitri had mentioned to me, used the term Bigfoot Gate, because he was convinced there's a cover up, as am I. This is suppressed at whatever level it is. There are certain people, I believe, that are pulling strings, that are well aware of Sasquatch, and that they have these abilities, and that there is a connection to the whole UFO ET phenomena that's always been happening around us. And as you mentioned, watching the Stephen Greer latest, I also watched that yesterday, and that was spot on, very interesting, and I'm in complete agreement with it. And I guess what happens.
Yeah, no, I agree with you too. So we watched it just before the show. That's why I was late to the check-in. A very interesting twist. For those of you who haven't seen it, I would recommend it. I don't recommend many things in this thing, but that perspective, that's a lot of, because it's a lot of things put together in sequential that have already happened. He's not really saying a bunch of new things. He's just displaying things that have already happened in a very good order. That makes a lot of sense. I don't want to ruin it for anyone who hasn't seen it, but
and basically, what's going on? We're having technology suppressed that can literally change the world overnight and heal, the human population, just rid of poverty and just.
They want to be able to industrialize it. They want to make money, so we're going to get it. That's the thing. It's just not before they figure out how to tax it.
Yeah, they want to control everything, and in the meantime, they don't care who they kill along the way, and or the destruction they cause the earth, and when. In the past, all this UFO stuff really started happening when they started blowing shit up on a grand scale, and apparently that is having an effect in other dimensions where these other races, races, whatever, exist.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot more going on around us that is unseen. That sometimes I tell people, it's probably just like that Star Wars bar scene.
Yeah, jeez. So what would the Aboriginal connection be? Like, we haven't. I'm surprised you haven't brought that up. And am I off to lunch thinking that there might be a connection to our Aboriginals, Indigenous people?
Well, native cultures have always known they exist, and they've always known that they have abilities. And the white man has always brushed it off as folklore, in their denial as per usual. So the native culture has always respected the Sasquatch and known that they are an interdimensional race.
Mm-hmm.
As far as Aboriginals, that would be Australia way, and Australia has the Yowie. There's Sasquatch type people, creature beings, whatever you want to call them, all over the globe. China has the Yeren, the Almasty out in Russia, or the Snowman, the Yeti. They're everywhere.
These are all intellectual, telepathic beings.
I don't know.
You don't know?
I know what I experience, and then I'm told certain things, answers to questions. Whether I'm being told the truth, I believe I am, but that's for debate.
Mm-hmm. And the Sasquatch is simply the Canadian one, or our Canadian.
Yeah, it tends. That's the term we tend to use here. Sasquatch, Sabe. South of the border, they use the term Bigfoot, which I'm not too fond of. Kind of demeaning.
Well, see, that's too literal. It doesn't it just means it has big feet. So it doesn't say it's like an ape or indicate any fur or anything on it. It could be anything. It could be a human with a big foot.
Yeah, I use that term once in a while myself. I try to use it in a respectful way. I do respect them very much, and I hope that this continues for the rest of my life. I don't ever want to screw up my contact, right? This is something that I wish to develop and hold on to for, till my last breath here.
Have you ever had any of your events or sightings or visits on First Nation property, like on reserves or anything like that? Have you gotten that close to the culture?
No, I'm not really visiting reserves. Sometimes I drive through them, on my way somewhere, but not really. I haven't really had much contact, with the native culture throughout this. Some I have. I actually did an interview in Yakima, Washington, a radio interview with. It was on a native reserve radio station, so that was pretty interesting. Bob Gimlin was actually in that studio at that time. I've been trying to get a copy, but still haven't gotten that because a bit of nostalgia there with that interview. So.
Cool. Okay. Any of you guys in the YouTube chat have any questions? Ask them now because we're down to the last 15 minutes. This has been great. Anything off the top of your head that you want to share that we haven't covered? I think we pretty well covered everything.
There's a couple of UFO incidents that happened to me.
All right, let's get into that. Let's do that. Tell me about that.
So the first one, I was driving north on the 400. I was just north of top end of the city in Toronto. Paterson is on my left there. And what was interesting in both incidents, the conditions were just prime. And I've found that, when these high evolved beings present themselves, they tend to do things in a way that leaves no doubt, right? So anyways, I was driving north in the 400. I don't know, there's 6, 7, 8 lanes there, whatever it is. About 4 or 5 lanes over. There was a transport with a trailer just ahead of me. There was a vehicle behind that. They were in the lane on my left side. We were doing about the speed limit, maybe just over. It was about 12:30 in the afternoon, and pristine conditions as far as the sky. There was not a cloud in the sky, completely blue skies. And suddenly there's a shadow, this huge shadow. It was moving, and it was moving in the same direction. And I see it, I suddenly see it in front of the car, and it basically enveloped the transport. And I watched this. It only lasted a few seconds. And while this is happening, I'm hearing nothing. I'm expecting to hear a plane engine. And I ended up, I stuck my head out the window to look up, and there was nothing there. So this shadow, which was basically impossible under the circumstances, under a logical explanation, there was a moving craft that had to be low enough to give that shadow, and it basically enveloped the whole truck, and then it was over. And right away I knew what happened. That was a cloaked UFO. That was, it had to be. There was no other explanation. So 15 days later, I was up in the area where Neff's home is. I was by myself at this spot where I pitched my tent. And again, it was pristine conditions. The sky was completely clear. The stars were all out. I could see way, way off in the distance. I could see the planes in the sky. I see their flashing lights, no problem. I hear their engines trailing behind them, no problem. Could hear everything. It's one of those, you could hear a pin drop, still nights. And then way off in that distance, I saw this bright light. And it was like a large plane, had its headlight pointed right at me. And almost immediately I noticed that there was no flashing light on this thing. I stood up from my chair as it got closer and closer, and I just watched this thing, and it flew over the road. It's treed on both sides. So I saw it coming. It was down, I don't know how far down the road. It wasn't that far from me. It was fairly close. I could not see a craft because this light was so bright. It ended up passing over the road where I was, just down up the road just a little bit, and might have been I don't know, maybe a couple 100 yards at most, and it was low, maybe a couple 1,000 feet, and it passed over the road, and it was dead silent, not a sound from this thing. If it was a drone, I would have heard it. And it was a very bright light. Like I said, no craft. I couldn't see craft because of that light. So these two incidents happened 15 days apart. And yeah, I found that it was quite astounding, very mind-blowing stuff.
With all your experiences, I know you're doing your self work and whatnot, but have you ever submitted a report to any agency like MUFON, or obviously not Tessa? This is the first time you heard of us, but have you taken it one step further to try and?
No, I really, honestly, I have no interest in filing reports. I don't care. I did do an on-camera interview or in studio not too long ago, and there's a gentleman there at the same time. He was on before me, Dave Pelichick. So I'm sure you know who Dave is.
I'm well aware who Dave is. Yeah.
And after he stuck around and he listened to my interview, and after that he asked me to write if I'd write an article for their next newsletter, which was in a week. So I took him up on that. So the last MUFON newsletter, I wrote a piece about Sasquatch in Ontario.
Perfect. Very nice. Good. Well, it's good. It's a good outlet to on the experiencer front, right? Like sharing your story, as with this video as well. This gives opportunity for experiencers who may have witnessed similar things to have that validation. Reporting is another method to get that message out there, but it doesn't necessarily have to be put on paper like that too. So that's good to hear that you're using those outlets as well, because that helps other people. That's kind of what I was looking at, right? We got a loaded question from Angela. Your thoughts on if government-assisted evacuation and medical to Bigfoots after Mount St. Helens blew? So that's the specific question. You know what she's talking about?
I know what she's talking about, but I really have no knowledge on that whatsoever. I don't know what to think about that. Personally, I would think that the Sasquatch would have knowledge that that was going to erupt and they would be out of there. So I have a difficult time in a lot of stuff I see posted online. I see a lot of which I believe is disinformation or just from my experience and from the experience of many others. These are spiritual beings that are very aware of the environment. They are literally one with the earth. They are so connected to nature and the earth. So I personally, I have a difficult time believing that they would not know that's coming and stick around and allow themselves to, be harmed.
Okay. Right on. Thanks, Angela, for that question. There was another one. Lee asks, how is your feelings on Todd Standing's research? So Todd Standing, another Canadian. I think he's in BC, right? And he's that guy that went to BC court, right?
I know who Todd Standing is. I'm well aware of that. I'm actually good friends with somebody who worked in the field with him for 3 years. So I know a few things that most people probably don't. But as far as his research goes, I'll just say I took some photos to the cottage once and asked about them. And I got the response that I expected I was going to get, because I understand how difficult it is to gain a visual on them. They know when you're coming, right? And I have trust. And it's while I know that Todd has had activity, there are certain things that I'm not convinced of. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, no, okay, that's fine. As I guess different perspective, but still in the same wheelhouse of everyone trying to get answers in different ways, you know. Would you, like, I know everything's been telepathic. So is it?
Oh, I have to interject there. Like, what do you mean everything's been telepathic? Because it hasn't.
Well, okay, sorry. Okay, correct myself. Not everything, but the majority. Okay.
Yeah.
So physical movement of items, though, right? Have you seen it with your eyes? Is what I'm trying to say. You have the audio recording.
Yeah. Actually, they finally, after hundreds and hundreds of marbles, held one in front of my face at about arm's length, and I got to watch it push through empty space and drop to the floor in front of me. They did that 2 visits in a row. I was running audio outside. You hear it hit the floor, and then you hear my reaction. And so there is a lot of physical stuff that goes on. You know, and
that's where the interdimensional aspect comes in too. So you've seen that through those mediums as well. You've seen them pass through both dimensions. I guess in those instances, I'm just trying to get a visual from a guy who's never had any experience with Bigfoot, Sasquatch phenomenon, whether it's science or not. I'm just trying to understand how they are, like, you know, why they're the way that they are. So that's why I'm asking that question as well.
They're very, like I said, they can be extremely subtle. They're very patient, and they love to mess with us. And they love the element of surprise. They will always catch you off guard every time, 100% of the time. This is part of their behavior and how they interact with humans. They might come up to the edge of your camp and scream, and good chance you won't see them. Or maybe you'll have a dream and they might show up that way. And you know, and you'll have an understanding that there's something more to that. Maybe you'll have something after this. Who knows?
Yeah, you never know. Like, it's also interesting too. Those were 2 other characteristics to the Enkidu scenario too, with the Epic of Gilgamesh. I do recall that Gilgamesh, while he was sleeping, he first made contact, and that's when he connected with Enkidu. After that, also Enkidu was known to be a trickster and a joker and to cause some stuff. And you mentioned that earlier, that they're known to be like that too. So there's a lot of parallels there, and you know, I just find it fascinating because I love the history. I believe that's ancient Sumerian mythology is the origin. So that's got to be where it all came from. So that link that far back, matching for me in real time, having this discussion, it's just blown me away. So I appreciate all this. Thank you so much.
I believe we are in the midst of a reveal by their people because of where we're headed. If we don't make a change, you know, we are destroying everything. We're poisoning everything, and you know, they are one with this earth. This is their home too, and they live in balance with nature, and we do not. So we've now gotten to a point where the destruction we're causing, it's you know, it's not good. We're headed towards, you know, whatever that may be, which is not good. And I believe that they love our people. They love us. We are connected to them, and they want us to wake up and change our ways and connect to the earth, you know, connect to nature. And I find the more I am in nature, I come out of there always just love it. I feel the energy. You can feel nature. It's a beautiful energy. It's raw. It's source energy. It's different when you go into the city. It's you know, I've grown very disconnected from that aspect.
Mm-hmm. I understand. Hairless Primate asks a good question. I can't believe I didn't think of this earlier. How do Sasquatch people feel about dogmen?
I've not asked them about dogmen at this point. It's something that I do plan on doing, trying to get some information on that. Like, I believe that's where the whole werewolf lore comes from. But there's a lot of negativity and just negative posts and reports about people speaking about this, and like they think they know something, when in actuality they have zero experience with it. It's just jumping on a bandwagon of negativity because something's unknown and maybe looks fierce, or
And this is a different
really
species.
know nothing.
This is not the same. Totally different species.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. If I had experience with that, I would say that. I have had a couple incidents that are canine, that seem canine, sniffing at my tent wall telepathically too. A telepathic snarl that sounded very dogmanish. If that's what it was, I don't know. But some very scary moments throughout the years. But no harm has come to me. I'm still here.
Well, that's good. Yeah, that's the other thing too with the Greer movie too, or documentary. Pardon me, was the emphasis that the extraterrestrial, whatever it is, and if we were to put these guys in that category, the others, they want peace. They're not causing harm, and this threat narrative is, it's non-existent, right? And you, like you mentioned, love, peace. They're all about that, and that makes it more inviting to want to explore, to want to make that contact, because we must be connected to them somehow. Why are they communicating with us? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe there's definitely a connection there. I think we've been watched the entire time we've been here as humans, and it's literally written on cave walls, basically depicting UFOs and ETs. So this stuff has always been there. There's all kinds of evidence around the earth that show that giants have walked this earth, and from what I see, they still do. It looks like at one time there were giants that could have been 30 plus feet tall. Does that still exist in another dimension? I don't know. I do know that there's a member in Neff's family that has a 21-inch print who was photographed, and then I went and stood in the same spot the next visit. That put him about between 11 and 12 feet tall. He was hunched about 11, so he's roughly about 12 feet tall. He had a 20-inch print in 2008, and in this past winter, he showed it 2 nights in a row at 21 inches. Neff's is now 16 inches, and there's other family members, bigger prints, between 18 inches. They're a large people.
Right. Sorry, I didn't realize I had my mic up. That's interesting too, with the age as well, right? So that's how you're measuring their age, or over time. Is that what you're trying to say with the prints getting bigger?
Well, there was something given to me this past winter, which was just awesome, because Neff tends to have his little sister with him. Her name's Anastasia, Anastasia Nefertia, and she has a 9.5 inch print now, and she is 12 years old. So she was 4 when this started. He was 17. She's now 12. He's 25. So they both showed their print during one visit. So it allowed me to actually give an educated guess on another individual in the family, which left us a trackway. When the big guy left a print at the same time, there was a young male, I believe it was a male, that left a short trackway, and I placed him about maybe 14, 15 years old because of the size of his footprint. He actually hit me in the shoulder with a snowball while I was documenting his trackway, and then he vocalized right beside me when I had my video camera running, which I have posted in a video, which is basically It's not public at this point. But yeah, so little things that they've given like that, slowly I get to gain some insight into their growth and that sort of thing. How much they grow. And yeah, so I've been documenting this family over the past 8 years.
That's interesting. It's good because then you can kind of prove the aging, the evolution, the growth, and all that other stuff through the continual investigation over time. So that's good. I like that.
And they know what's going on. They know what I do with all this information.
Why one foot though? Why is it only the 1 foot? How come not both feet?
It's not always the 1 foot. It's both. Sometimes they'll leave a single print. Sometimes they'll leave a trackway. Sometimes there's been. I remember one night Neff leaves a trackway. I can't remember if it was the right or left foot. We'll just say the right foot. So he left the right foot, and there was about 5 feet. Then it's the right foot. There was about 5 feet, and it's the right foot. And he did this a few times. Mm-hmm. I scratched my head like he's not hopping on 1 foot because there's no impact in the snow. So I'm trying to figure that, and that's when I realized he's choosing to leave his print for us. So he's basically walking normal, but he's only showing the one print as he's walking because he's choosing to do that. They do not have to leave prints when they move. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I understand. So like a selective in between the veil, however that works, they're just 1 foot in, 1 foot out, just trying to, yeah, it seems intentional that way. That does make sense.
And it's not that their foot has to be physically in this dimension to leave a print. I don't believe it does at all because of just being witness to the physical contact, right? When you feel them touch you, it's like somebody's right there doing that. So if that's going to press down the snow in that invisible state, that's going to leave a print.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Hairless Primate asks, did you ever communicate with Kevin Lang about the Glag or Glog Sasquatch encounters?
I talked to Kevin once on the phone, yes.
Okay. I don't know who that guy is and what that's all about. What's the context there?
He relayed to me about experiencing telepathy, and which I don't think he was open about publicly, but he did talk to me about it. And people tend to do that and open up to me about it because they know I'm speaking the real thing when they've experienced it themselves.
Okay. And what is the Glag or Glog Sasquatch? What is that? Is that a specific Sasquatch?
A specific individual that he encountered in his life. I can't remember what the whole story is about, but I think there was some. It's a bit of sad story.
Okay, and because it's Sasquatch, does that mean it was in Canada? Am I to assume that, or you cut out again, or maybe?
There you are.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. Sorry about that.
I'm not in a great spot here. I got Wi-Fi too. I'm surrounded by woods, so I got some spotty Wi-Fi going on.
It's all good. We're almost through it anyway. So with it being Sasquatch, am I wrong to assume that that's in here in Canada, or with the title of that?
I'm sorry.
With that encounter with Kevin Lang, the Glag Sasquatch.
Oh, that was no. He was in the U.S.
Okay. All right. So that term is used in both countries. I'm just trying to understand the difference, because that's the thing in this field. These are labels, right? We want to get down to the characteristics of these, but I guess it's different species, right? I'm just trying to understand the whole thing on the phenomenon.
I don't think it's different species at all. I think it's just there are people, and they vary individually, as we do, although they have a collective that I don't think there is lies among their people, because they can't lie, because all the others would know. They're telepathic ability is just astounding. Like myself, I don't get mind speak all the time. No, I've had a few instances over the years. I've had different incidents of telepathy that has been both visual, words that are felt, not heard,